Chapter 2. When Moonlight Met Crimson. An hour before the office opened, I transformed into a bat and flew high above the Park Avenue building. Slipping through the topmost windows of my office, that I occasionally leave open, I reformed into my original figure. The first thing on my mind was to review the security footage. Yesterday, a man had come into the lobby, specifically asking for me. Things like that were normal. I'm used to people like the press or the New York Times trying to get an interview about my business strategies. But this man was far different than any of them. I scrolled down the page on my computer to replay a video recorded at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. A man sporting jet black hair and a chiseled face with an unbuttoned white dress shirt and blue jeans walked into the front lobby. "Pleasure," he said, looking at the lobby's secretary behind the front desk. Julie was busy typing on the computer until she took a quick glance to see just how handsome he was. What struck her as odd was when he pulled out 2 index cards and began reading from one of them. "My name is Raven, and I'm from the Crimson Blades looking for someone who goes by the name Charlette Orpheus. Do you perhaps know if she's in this building right now?" Julie was perplexed at what she was seeing. It was bad enough that he came here thinking he could directly speak to me. Normally, men who thought they could was because they were trying to propose a business proposal that could benefit the company, or try to secure a date with me at an expensive restaurant. Whatever Raven's intentions were, it didn't seem like either. "I've never heard of that company before," Julie said. "Might I know what business you have with our CEO?" As if knowing she was going to ask, he flipped to the next card and began reading. "Our group exercises the rights to regulate legal activity in state-chartered financial institutions. If I can't speak to Miss Orpheus directly, may you guide me to a certified lawyer employed here?" Julie couldn't tell if this was an elaborate prank until he showed her a badge with the words Crimson Blades inscribed on it. There was no way she would simply call me to discuss lawful affairs with someone random, so instead, she called in the secretary in our legal department. I watched on the security cameras as Raven waited for someone, and for half an hour, he sat on a chair, playing with his curly hair until one of our lawyers finally came out to greet him. At first, Julie thought the lawyer was going to send him off because of how unofficial he looked. Who could blame her? The two quickly began discussing marketing collateral and conflicting interests that went undisclosed, prompting the lawyer to talk privately with Raven at his office. Raven might have taken on the appearance of a refined salaryman, but his knowledge of broker fraud was enough to startle one of our best lawyers. I watched as they entered an elevator together and walked out on the 5th floor. By the time the two finished speaking in his office, Raven seemingly apologized, just as the lawyer bid him goodbye. "You know where the exit is, right? I gotta get back filing my papers." Our company policy for guests and visitors was that they were to be accompanied by an employee at all times while inside the building. Raven closed his eyes, giving a light smile. By the time the lawyer left with a smug look on his face, his smile had gradually faded. Raven used the men's bathroom like he said he would, but he never agreed to leave the building. The next thing he did was take the staircases all the way up to the topmost floor, exactly where my office was located. I should make a reminder to fire that lawyer. No, I should replace the entire human resources department for hiring such incompetence. There were no security cameras in my office or in the hallways for obvious reasons. The only camera on this floor was by the front entrance where my secretary's desk was. During that instance, while I was on the phone with the head of an advertising company, I heard someone whistle. It was loud enough to make me turn around and stare at Raven, who was standing more than 25 feet from my door. For a split second, I was positive I saw him squint when I looked at him, but his expression quickly became solace. "Do you have a minute, Miss Orpheus?" he asked in a nonchalant tone. "I'm on an important phone call, and how did you get in here?" My door was locked. "Before I came here, I saw this key and decided to see if it would open this door." Lo and behold, it did. He's hiding something, I thought at the time. There are only 2 keys to my office. The first one is kept with me at all times, and the second is a spare that I personally hid above the ceiling tile. The only other way he could have spotted the key was if he purposefully looked for it. "Where'd you find that key?" I suspiciously asked. "Sorry if I came in uninvited. I'll put the key back where I found it and give it to me and wait outside." I couldn't have been more stupid. If I had known who Raven was, I wouldn't have acted the way I did. After my phone call ended, I told him to come in. I then took a seat at my desk as he pulled up a chair and sat down in front of me, cross-legged. He looked around as I stared at him. 15-foot glass windows were placed directly behind a lavishly constructed desk. On the white walls were inline pieces of art that museums would marvel at the sight of. But what made this room so special was how it converted sunlight radiation, which helped me withstand the sun's rays. The cost of this room alone was over $1 million. "Quite the fancy office you have here, Miss Orpheus." "I'm sure that's not the reason you came here to bother me," I said. Right. I almost completely forgot about. "Hey, are those contacts you're wearing?" This was the first time any man knew I was wearing contact lenses. These were the best natural-colored contact lenses on the market. I even had unprescribed glasses on for extra security. But how did he figure it out? "I'm wearing glasses for a reason," I lied. Must be my eyes playing tricks on me again. Raven remained quiet while smiling at me. He would occasionally look elsewhere, which began to annoy me. So I said, "Look, I'm a very busy person, and I don't have time to. You know, when I whistled earlier, I did it at a pitch only animals could hear." His statement suddenly angered me. I couldn't tell you why he pissed me off. I just knew that he was starting to get annoying. So I got on the phone and called for security. I had never seen this person before, and it was clear that he wasn't an employee based on what he was wearing. When he heard me asking for security, he got up and began apologizing. "You insulted me? Stole my key? Walked in here without permission? And you expect me not to press charges?" Raven waved his hands back and forth, promising that he hadn't done either of those things. His excuses were that he only opened the door to see if the key would fit before handing it back to me. It didn't take long for 2 security guards to storm into my office. Raven quickly got up and casually placed his hands in the air. The security guards immediately grabbed him by the shoulders to apprehend him. And throughout that entire process, he kept a straight face. When security couldn't figure out how exactly Raven came in, I became livid. "Call my secretary now." When he arrived, he was puzzled as to why Raven and the security guards were standing outside my office. I questioned him about why he let Raven through. My secretary was confused, stating that he never once saw anyone come by. To verify things, they detained Raven in the security room until they could review the cameras while the police arrived. The simple matter of a man trespassing on my building escalated far more than I had expected. I left it to the security guards to handle Raven as I returned to my office to think about things. He was later escorted outside the building and given a trespass charge. Something had bothered me. I shouldn't have let him leave, nor should I have let my security guards handle his interrogation. After reviewing the security footage from yesterday, I pulled out the police report. On it was Raven's last name, Sterling. Caucasian male with hazel eyes, 25 years old, 6 feet and 3 inches, and weighing 205 pounds. There was no mention of him working for a company called the Crimson Blades. Had he known I was a vampire from the start, or had he been testing me? Does he even believe in vampires? I was stupid not to have thought about it. Vampires are excellent at keeping their identities a secret. Even as newborns, a term used to identify a newly turned vampire, they remembered what it was like to be alive. There were the occasional "don't forget to blink" and pretend like the hamburger tastes good rules. But I had never encountered someone who would whistle softly just to test if I had enhanced hearing. For goodness sake, I didn't even hear him open the door. When I reviewed that footage, I saw just how Raven snuck into my office. He noticed the moment that my secretary wasn't looking and slipped right by his vision. How he discovered where I hid my spare key was a mystery. I shouldn't have let him leave my building. No, I should have placed him under a hypnotic trance to interrogate him myself. Frustrated at my poor lack of judgment, I walked over to the wall and opened a secret compartment to grab a drink. I then sat back down after downing a glass that tasted like sweet raspberry. The kick it gave me was better than any wine or alcoholic beverage could ever produce. The last thing I wanted to do was tell Evelyn about the matter. She gave me the task of maintaining our domain in Manhattan without being discovered until she returned. If I couldn't do that, she'd more than be disappointed. She'd have me shut down our entire operation and then relocate. There was no way I was going to let that happen. Usually, one mistake meant the dismemberment of that group in that area. That's why most territories, like the United States, were scarce when it came to large groups of vampires. It was either loners that would eventually die after being hunted down, or groups that had to travel far to areas that were limited on blood supply. New York City was too great of a place to pass up. So if I wanted to prosper here until Evelyn's return, I would first try to handle Raven alone. Perhaps I was being paranoid, but it didn't hurt to do a little research on these so-called crimson blades. Nothing came up. I had never heard of this group. Was it a secret agency, or was it something Raven made up just to sneak into my office? So I tried to do a background report on a Raven Sterling. And there he was. The same man I met yesterday. One criminal trespass record from here, a valid social security number, no driving record, no credit history, no employment, no educational history, no medical history, no social media accounts, and one street address on file.
Wish to read along while you listen? Be sure to follow us on our social media platform for the latest news.